I want to do a little introduction of Sarah. Sarah, I'm so inspired by your work. Sarah is a printmaker. She's a bookmaker. She's a full-time artist, and she teaches bookbinding and printmaking at the Frederick Book Art Center and Pyramid Atlantic Art Center. And her work has been exhibited in the US, part of permanent collections at Yale's Rare Book and Manuscript Library, George Washington University's Gelman Library, University of Puget Sound, and Samford University. It is inspiring, and it just makes me want to get my hands inky. So we're so glad that you're here today, Sarah. And I'll turn it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me, Stephanie. This is an amazing group of people I've been following for months. So thank you for inviting me to speak to all of you.
Yes.
So I've done a few, which is weird. I have done a few talks over the last couple of months, which I would have never thought I would be doing, considering that we're under these times and the pandemic. And so the most asked question I get is, what do you do when you're not motivated? And I totally subscribe to this. I totally understand. I mean, last week, I did not feel motivated to do anything during the election. I didn't feel motivated to make anything. Or when George Floyd was killed, I didn't feel like making anything that week. Or the year after I graduated from my master's degree, I didn't make anything. So I totally understand, how that feels, not wanting to do something. So how do you get motivated? So for me, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So it's in the car. So even if I'm in the car without the kids, not even driving, just listening to other artists talk about their work. There's a show I listen to called Studio 78 from Nashay Snow. And so she has guest artists come on and talk about their trajectory, where they came from, what they do now, and some of the stories I saw myself in them. And it was very encouraging to me to keep moving forward. Another podcast I listen to is Girl Boss with Sophia Amoruso. Same thing. They'll have different artists or entrepreneurs. Just listen to their stories. Just, again, seeing what they went through empowers me to do what I do. Another one is A Piece of Work by Abby Jacobson. I think it's only a limited run, 10 episodes, but she goes to different museums and talks to different people. And even though you don't see it, you can visualize what's going on in that podcast. And I just, love it. Even though I think I've listened to it twice in a row, and I was thinking about doing it again. So that's one of my other ones. Splendid Table is another one. To hear the host talk about food, to me, it's just fascinating. And I think it's probably the tone of voice that they have. It's just, it's just juicy to me. And then my newest one I've been listening to is Adventures in Arting podcast with Julie Faye Balzer and her mother. And they interview different artists across the world, actually, and talk about their process and how they print and all that good stuff. And then another resource that I utilize is YouTube. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. I will watch just anyone make anything. It doesn't matter if it's building a table or putting up drywall, or in this case, there's an artist called Mutsu from Perspective Flow. He actually hand sews different kimonos for men. And I just find it fascinating. He doesn't even talk. He just sews and plays music in the background, and it's just very, cathartic to me. And then there's Angelina from Blueprint DIY, where she takes thrifted items and turns them into new items. And so that's kind of what I do now with my books. I find books from the thrift store or existing art from the thrift store, and I remake them into something new. So that, kind of jazzes with me. Peg and All is another one. I recently discovered them 2 weeks ago, and watched, I forget her name, but watched her make some handmade books and utilizing just random scraps of fabric that she had in her stash. So that was just, you know, mesmerizing to me. And then also watching people shop for stuff also makes me feel good. I mean, because sometimes you'll see people pick up like different plates or textiles and different patterns that I've never seen. And so I just take a note of what I'm seeing, the colors I'm seeing, and, you know, kind of translate into the work that I do. The next thing I do is find my people. When I was getting my undergrad degree, and it was in sociology, it wasn't even in art, in sociology. And my cousin and I were in multiple classes together, and we thrived because we had each other to bounce ideas off each other and talk to each other and, you know, study with each other. And so as I progressed into my master's degrees, I would always find that study buddy, that one person or two people that I would reach out to, and we would spend time learning with each other and pushing each other to move forward. So now, and just like you guys do right now with this Hamilton Hangout, I meet with my art friends every week. We have a standing invitation on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, and we will sit on Zoom or FaceTime for 2 hours in our own personal studios and make stuff together, whether it's collaborative work or we're working on individual projects, or sometimes we even just whiteboard ideas about how we're going to move forward as artists. And so it's very important to have that, like you're having right now, that conversation with other like-minded people, because it helps push you forward to the next level. Taking a class is also a thing that I love to do. I have 4 degrees: sociology, an MBA, a graphic design degree, and then an MA in art and the book from the Corcoran College of Art and Design. And I consider myself a career student. So I will always learn something new. It's very important to me. It keeps me sharp. And I just love, you know, getting in there and learning something new. And even though I teach art, recently I took a class at Pyramid actually on long stitch. And it was just so good to be in the room, even though it's via Zoom, to just learn something that I hadn't learned before. And I just sat there on mute and made my book and didn't have to worry about, you know, logging people in or answering any questions. I just had that time to just learn something just for me. So it's a good investment to do those things. So if you have a local community center or any place that you see online that you want to take a class, just go for it. Save the money and do it, because it can keep you moving forward. And then I know that we don't talk about this much, but I see my therapist every 2 weeks. And it's important to talk to people and share how you're feeling, because if I didn't reach out, I don't know where I would have been. After having my last child, I had postpartum depression, and I did reach out and find a therapist and have been talking to her ever since. And it has made a tremendous impact on my life. And so if you feel like, you know, I'm not motivated, I can't move forward, then maybe you need to talk to someone or talk to people that can help you move forward to the next level. And then also, my favorite thing to do is remind yourself of the things that you have already done. I have sometimes I forget what I have done. And because I've forgotten, I feel down, like I haven't done anything. And so if you go and pull out your most recent projects and prints, your favorite prints that you have made or books that you have made, it can like energize you to get in, you know, get into the ring. That's how I, you know, articulate it, is getting back into the ring, like you're fighting a fight. Like it helps you get back into there and keep moving and doing the things that you love. So I'm gonna switch my camera to my hands.
There we go. Now we see your hands. Sarah, that was a wonderful way to start. I think we're all feeling a little heavy lately. And I was taking notes because those are all very good reminders. So thank you for starting that way.
You're welcome. No problem. So I first wanted to start with the most recent thing that I've been working on. I just made this yesterday because I'm preparing for Carve December. I, along with a number of artists, I believe it's 11 artists, created this Carve December class, and that you can go and purchase on Julie Faith Ann Bowser's site. And we all individually have created a 10-minute video on how to, I guess, maximize your experience when doing Carve December. So this is going to be my journal for Carve December. So I'm going to print in multiple colors and fill this up with yummy goodness for the next, well, for the 31 days in December. So this is the most recent thing that I made, and I used the French link stitch, and I learned from Peck and All that you use the fabric strips and just glued it over, and then I collaged my prints or the leftover prints that I had. Because sometimes when you like are framing something and you just kind of cut pieces off, I keep everything. So I just like put it on this. And so hopefully I'll be able to, I want to print on the inside of the covers all the way through for the entire month. And this is 128 pages, so it's going to be fun. So I heard someone say RBG. I made a stamp, RBG's lace. And when I was talking about earlier about revisiting things that you had made before, so what I did was I took photos of my previous prints, uploaded them to Photoshop, and tweaked the contrast or the lightness or brightness, and I printed them on regular 67-pound paper. And then I bound it into this book. So you know how when you buy like cards in like in this like box, but I basically cut out the sides and I sewed these pages in, and I went back and printed over those older prints. So basically just trying to see what comes through. I love seeing the stuff show up in the background of my prints. How the colors shine through. And so, and the other thing too is I started making the stamps with the words because I didn't have access to a letterpress. So I had to figure out some way to print words. So I had to carve my own stamps. There's another one. This is Good Trouble, John Lewis. This is one of my favorites. So it looks like a window pane or the color window panes. So that's this one. And then when I was talking about upcycling, here is my favorite milk. Oatly milk. I made a book from the carton. So I cut it out and put in various prints or leftover paper that I had. It's not quite finished because I want to collage some more things into it. But I just used the pamphlet stitch this is a 7-hole pamphlet stitch. And then eventually I'm going to add some beads to the string here. This is another upcycled book. This was a photo album that I got from the thrift store, and it was wire bound. So I just cut that completely out, and I glued in some decorative paper and pulled out my stash. This is something that I block printed over. I found this in a book about like never give up on the things that make you smile, because that's going to keep you pushing forward. And then some random pages that I had in my archive. So this is also a work in progress. So I haven't, quite finished this book, but this is what it is. And I actually bought 4 of these. So there are 3 more. And I want to be able to put them into a set in a box. So that's in progress. This is another book that I worked on. I finished it actually. It's an accordion book of multiple prints. You see, this is my COVID-19 stamp featured here. And I just went through and printed. So this is Black Lives Matter. Little Fabergé egg. This is me. This is one thing I've been exploring because sometimes I really don't like trying to carve, myself and fall in love with my nose and my mouth and my eyes, and just by doing that, just making myself feel better about who I am and the features that I have. This is a flag book stamp. And then on the other side, this is double-sided. It's some other yummy goodness of different overlay prints. I like to do this because the first time I did Inktober and Carve December, I printed on paper, but I wish I'd had a record of the things that I had made or the stamps that I had carved. And so I started doing things like this. That's why I did this book here, so I can commemorate all the things that I print and make in December. Here's another experiment that I'm working on. It's Jacob's Ladder. I taught this class at Pyramid Atlantic, I don't know, a month ago. And so utilizing one of my prints. So I also teach a Shibori Indigo dyeing class, and I just love the shape of this. So to make this on the Shibori dyeing thing, you have to take a ball, wrap it around the fabric with a rubber band. And once it's dyed, it looks like this shape. So I had it lying out here in my makeshift studio and I kept being drawn to it. So I decided to carve a stamp that was like this shape. And then I printed it in different colors. So I started out with just the green and then the blue and then the yellow, and then I added the colors. So this creates like effect. Maybe turn it the other way.
I love how that goes back to that idea you said earlier about being inspired by many things. Like, don't just read about letterpress or don't just read about stamping. Like, I love your patterns and wondered where some of them came from. So knowing the Shibori behind that is really nice.
Yeah. So to further improve upon that, so when I did that, then I said, well, let me try just adding little swirls and do it and just CMY. So cyan, magenta, and yellow. And I started with the yellow. This is just one stamp going one direction, then turning it upside down, going the other direction, going all the way around, and then printing with pink or magenta, and then going over with blue. And this is the final result. I just love the movement and the different colors you get in between. So even though I only use those 3 colors, you can see green, you can see purple, you can see maroon, you can see other colors shine through. That's what I love about it. This is the same color pattern with a different stamp. This one I did with the complementary colors, so orange, green, and purple. And then I used this stamp to print over it. Femme Not Frail. This is what I call a quilt on paper. So I took the stamp and turned it in different directions, and then added the white on top. And you can put it in any direction.
Sarah, a question about that white. When you're stamping, is there a white that's pretty opaque for getting that to overlay on top?
Yeah, and for this one, I'm using the Memento Lux. So it's for mixed media. So yeah, because I mean, if you're doing like screen printing or anything like that, you have to do like multiple layers in order for the white to show up. Yeah. I've been playing around with different white inks that I can do at home. Yeah. And this is the one that, you know, seems to work really well.
Great. And I love that you had it right there. You're like, yep,
yeah,
this is the
one. my inks are right here at my fingertips. So I don't, yes. You know.
That's awesome.
So this is basically similar to this. So I just took my scraps and I glued them all in, and then I block printed new stuff on top of it, and another version of like a paper quilt, and you can turn it in multiple directions.
Along with the question I asked about ink, Lisa wants to know if you'd mind sharing what kind of paper you use.
Yes, I use the Hannah Mule Bristol vellum paper. I got it on Amazon. So I buy them in the 8.5 by, no, well, not 8.5, 11 by 17 sheets. And then I cut them down. Great. So I feel like when you print, it just really, the colors shine really great through it. So, but then again, I use whatever I have in the house, to be honest. But that's my favorite paper right now.
Ooh, and Lauren is asking if there was a tutorial for the French stitch book.
Yes, I actually posted the video page this morning.
Ooh, I'll go look for it and help share. So, great.
Yeah, it's called My Journal for Carve December, and my YouTube page is Sarah Be Me. So SARAHBEME, and then it's the most recent video that I just uploaded.
I love that we can keep learning from you even when this is over. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is another book. I made the slipcase from an offcut, an off print, and a band. I was bored that day. I just was maximizing. And again, that same plastic from the card holder. And this is basically collage work, different prints. This is, what is this? I think this is like glue and gesso mixed in this. And then this was the original card that came in the box. I included that in the book and block printed. This is another self-portrait. And then I've been doing the Turkish map fold and everything recently, so just trying things out. And then I added a little fringes to this. So this is what I call another version of an upcycled book. All right. So I wasn't going to let time go by without me showing you how I print. So I'm going to be using the book that I most recently made in the class that I took, Long Stitch, with Aubrey at Pyramid Atlantic. I already block printed the cover. Now we're going to start with the first page. I always start with yellow first, or the lightest color first. I'm using VersaFine Clear stamping pads. I started using these primarily because I have a 4-year-old at home. So trying to get out a brayer and a plexiglass and my speedball was not going to work. So I had to find something that I can do quickly. And that's why I started using these. So these are what I call my trash stamps. So these are made from leftover scraps. I have a bag of them that I keep. And I'm gonna start with, this is random. I just pulled them out of my drawer, not even thinking about it, because this is another reason why I feel like if you want to get yourself out of a rut, just grab some things that you recently printed with and just print with them. It's kind of like a warm up just to get yourself going.
While you're sharing the warm up, we have a good question from Casey. They want to know, is your sequencing intuitive and organic? Does the narrative emerge, or is it planned? And maybe you wouldn't even use the term narrative.
It is not planned most of the time. And then sometimes, like, I will be, and it's so weird, I will be in a deep sleep and I'll see a pattern in my, in my mind, and then I'll wake up and just carve it. It's weird. But most of my stuff is just like, let's see what's gonna happen. Do I like this? Do I don't like it? If I don't like it, then it ends up in the scrap pile and I reuse it again. Just like in the book that I showed you earlier and the quilted prints, like I will just reuse it for something else if I don't like it.
Nice. Oop, we lost your video on the phone.
I think because somebody decided they're going to call me.
So that's life, isn't it? That's always how life works. We are now vertical as well, but
I can fix that. See?
Awesome. Look, easy peasy.
Hey, we did it. Story of my life.
Exactly.
Oh, and how I got the holes in here is I use I have a real Japanese screw punch from Talus, but I got a cheap one from Amazon and I use that to poke the holes in my rubber.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I was curious as well. Christina has a good question. If you'd be willing to talk more about your patterns, if they have a meaning for you. She thinks a lot. Christina is reminded of the textile imagery, and she wondered if you would speak a little bit more about your patterns that you make.
So a lot of my patterns are inspired by textiles. So my most recent favorite textile right now is mole from Panama. And I don't have any right here in front of me, but I just think it's the colors, because they're hand stitching different motifs, like it may be a bird or flowers or anything. I just love how it looks. I also love mud cloth or the African Dutch fabric. So a lot of this stuff is in my collection. I have guess the other thing too is my mother was a seamstress, or still sews sometimes, but there was fabric in the house all the time. So I think that's probably what has drawn me to making patterns like this, because every time I do it, someone always says, you should make a fabric out of that. I was like, I know. But yeah, fabric, textiles, rugs, you name it. I just love looking at that kind of stuff. And that's probably why I watch it on YouTube, people buying it or installing it or whatever, or or putting on a loom. It's just fascinating to me.
And there was actually one more question. Your sound cut out for just a second earlier when you were talking about why you carved yourself. Do you mind talking about that for one more minute? Because it was very interesting, but it cut out right when you were like at the moment.
Oh no. Okay, so I don't like pictures of myself. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't. Every time I, see something like a picture of myself, like on Facebook or Instagram, I don't like it. And so I figured I could start embracing my beauty by carving self-portraits of myself. So that's not the one that you just saw. That was probably like the 5th iteration of me carving myself. And so by doing that, I find that I love my lips more, or my nose more, or my eyes more, because I had the opportunity to carve it, taking that time with my physical self.
Yeah, thank you. I like embracing my beauty. I think that's a really nice way to think about it.
Yeah. So that's the first one.
That's lovely. And do you mind that we just keep asking you while you print?
Oh yeah.
This is
absolutely.
Great. I think be careful, because we'll just be like, ooh, we get to sit here and watch Sarah print all day. There's another good question. Viola was saying they were wondering, with these textiles, what you want to communicate. So printmaking and typography for this person is a strong way to communicate. Meaning like they use images and simple words with typography. So could you talk about maybe what you're communicating with the prints that you're making?
Well, sometimes I want to invoke the spirit of joy, right? Or in some instance, like I'm coming right at you with like with the Black Lives Matter, like I'm coming at you with, my statement of how I feel, or like femme not frail, like I'm strong, I'm a woman, I'm strong, I can do anything. I just recently made a print with just vote. So 2 different stamps, we just vote all the way across. It was actually in the last show at Pyramid for the mashup. And I just wanted to shine light on voting. And so I actually framed the piece in a mirrored frame. So if you walked up to it, you could see yourself in the print. And so there's sometimes where I'm like, I'm trying to tell you something, and then other times I want you to figure it out on your own. So for example, let me see what else I got here I can show you. Like this flag book that I made. It's from one of my first letterpress pieces. And I could not sell these prints for no reason. I don't know why I couldn't sell them, but it doesn't matter because I ended up making a flag book out of it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase.
That's absolutely stunning.
So that's like right in your face.
Yes, it is.
Like, bam, you know.
And a really strong showing of the flag book, like that structure. You can tell that that works really well for that print. Like it became something different. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the flag book is my favorite structure. Actually, any sculptural book is like my favorite, because I feel like it's like when you look at a flag book, you can look at it from multiple sides, from the back, the front, the side, the light that shines through the flags to the shadows that it casts. Like I just, you know, Haiti Kyle just was she's a jewel. Like I'm so glad she invented that, because I just love using it.
Yes, her book, when that finally came out, I'm pretty sure I bought 3 copies so I could just give some to friends as well. Like,
well, I bought 2, one to like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. See, when I do that, you know, I don't mind. I just go ahead and boom. But I want to do, it's called Art of the Fold. Art of the Fold by Haiti Kyle and Ula Warcall, I think it is. Warcall?
yes, yep.
Yeah.
Her daughter, right?
I think so. But I wanted to, like, you know how if you're a Harry Potter fan, the Half-Blood Prince, like I wanted a Half-Blood Prince, one of the copies with my notes.
I love it. Someday somebody can be like, I have Sarah Matthews' book of Art of the Fold with all her notes.
Right. With all her potions and crap.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Yes, exactly. They know the behind the scenes now. I love it.
Here's her tears and her blood from, yes. binding books with her needles and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just moving it. Just so it's not exactly on top of each other. Sometimes I clean my stamps, sometimes I don't, but I have wipes because I have a 4-year-old, so I'll just do that.
Well, that's nice for cleanup. You were saying part of the reason you do this is because you can do it in your living room. And I think the accessibility of just being able to clean up with baby wipes is so important. Ooh,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I said, because one time I did pull out the braid in a plexiglass and rolled up some ink, and here she comes with her hand in it. Bam.
Yes. Well, and we have some people who don't do much carving with stamps. So James is even asking, what are you making the stamps from? Is it rubber, lino, or something else?
This is soft cut. So soft KUT from blick.com, or you can get it from Artists and Craftsmen. They come, oh well, I dropped it. They come in 12 by 18 sheets or smaller, but I like to buy them in large sheets, and I feel like it's more economical because I can cut it down to the size that I want. My preferred like carving material is wood, but I'm home, so this is what I'm doing.
And someone also shared your YouTube videos, which is great. I have lots of things to watch now, which is good.
Awesome.
Does your ink dry fairly fast? It looks like you can like turn the page and keep going.
Yes, because this is the VersaFine Clear, so it's very fast drying. That's why I like it,
Yep.
So let's just play around. I'm gonna do the love stamp. And I didn't think about this. I did not even plan this. So it just happened this way. Well, that's the fun of it, you know?
That's beautiful. Love is the message we need today. So that's great. Thank you.
Yes. We need that more than anything right now. Love one another. Okay. I'm going to clear the decks real quick. Oh, we at 143. You want to do questions, or I can show you more books?
I love the idea of you showing us more books, and as questions come in, we can ask that. Does that work?
Works.
If anyone feels differently, put it in the chat. I'm happy to do something different.
All right. So I picked up these cards from the thrift store. They're made in Mexico, and I use them as covers for this flag book.
Lisa wants to know, how long have you been carving?
So interesting. I don't know what year that was. I believe that was, so I started at Corcoran in 2012, and I didn't take printmaking until the 4th semester. So that might have been like 2014. And the class was advanced printmaking with the Georgia Deal, and phenomenal class. She showed us everything from gum transfer to etching, which I don't like. Because I need to be faster. I can't be rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. I don't have time for that. So
yes.
So that's, you know, anyway, anywho, did I lose the spotlight?
I did. I was to see you. So.
Oh, okay.
And if anyone wants to unmute and ask questions, please feel free.
Oh, Casey is here. I see Casey. Hey, my professor. Sorry.
Hey, Sarah, this has been a beautiful, yeah.
I miss you. I miss my Corcoran teachers so much. All right, here's a flag book. Look at all the gory goodness. So the blackest letterpress. I printed it with my show card press. Haha, the small one, the little itty bitty one. And then this is some block printing. And then this is when Chris Smith came, his name was Chris? No, the itinerant printer. He came to Frederick Book Art Center and he had leftover scraps. So I took those to make this.
I think Chris would be happy to know that it had a new life, right? I think that's great.
I'm one of those people that after an event and there's like papers flying around, I'm like, what are you doing with that? Are you going to use that? Like, I'm, you know, because at Pyramid we had I think the largest handmade paper thing made. And so after it was over and they were sitting there and drying, I was like, who's going to take that? I want it.
Sarah, you're in such good company right now. we don't call it hoarding here. We, you know, it has a life.
It's a collection. It's a collection. You know, like, hey, this is the orphan drawer full of prints. Who do you want this? I'm going to take it. Okay, so so Sarah Noreen probably is going to cringe, but I don't consider myself a great box maker, but I will go to the thrift store, find the box and appropriate it.
Good
so
call.
I just made a little box out of cardboard, and then it's a flag book. I put the little ribbon in there so you can pull it out nicely. And so it says, we should all know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value no matter their color, by Maya Angelou.
Oh, that's stunning.
Nice in the middle.
When you open up your books, I'm constantly like gasping for breath. Like that first open is so stunning. Oh, there's another gasper in the comments. I'm not the only one.
This is an altered book. And I put in various, some of my prints, some of my papers I had in my collection, not hoarding, my collection. And then I block printed on top of them. This is another, I'm going to show you a stamp that I did of myself as a child. No, I mean, I didn't make it as a child, but this is me as a kid. It's so cute. It's my little pom-poms. The first time I showed it, my mom was like, "Is that Phoebe?" Which is my youngest. I'm like, "No, that's me." And then some other like pages from other things. I've collaged some things. That's me again.
I like that it shows up throughout.
Yeah, I think I'm in there like 3 times. And then I started doing this jagged edge thing. So you could see, like, if it was sitting open, like in a museum or whatever, you would see multiple layers of the book at one glance. And then I put a quote from Martin Luther King: "We ain't what we ought to be. We ain't what we want to be. We ain't what we gonna be. But thank God we ain't what we was." Ooh. It gives me goosebumps.
Yes.
Here's another instance of that jagged edge thing that I was doing.
Ooh, actually, while you have you on there, Lisa had a good question about attaining the 2 colors, both the black and the brown. Is it 2 blocks separately?
It's 2 blocks separately. You caught it.
Lisa's on it. Look at that.
See? Yeah. Because I was like, you got to print the skin tone, you know.
Yeah.
The only thing that I struggle with is when you're doing these pads, like you can't find your skin tone, or I can't find my skin tone in this, because brown is, I mean, brown, not really like skin tone. So yeah. So it's different if you like had speedball, you had white and a little red, a little blue, and some brown. You could mix your skin tone, but I'm home. This is the best I could do. Yes. I could do in that case. So, and that's this one. And what I said before about like having inspiration. Sometimes I leave my most recently made things like in my view of my eyes. And the first time I made, because this is the second time I've made this book, because it had a black spine and I wouldn't go to it. Like it wasn't even filled with anything. So I rebound it, used the yellow tape, and then now I finally finished it after I just changed the color. That's all I did was change this color, and I finished it. So
that's amazing. What you wanting to be able to reach out and touch it is one of those things that affects it, right?
Yes, Casey, I do put colophons in my book. I learned from the best.
Sarah, do you think about art therapy? I mean, you were talking about working when you maybe don't feel the best, but you know, do you think about it a lot, and just in terms of art as a reaction to feeling?
Yes. So I have a dream. Okay. So when my grandmother, when I was in my 20s, I have everything out here. She used to send me her poetry, just so I could edit them and send them to the copyright office. And so she could make her own poem book. But sadly, she passed away before that could happen. I mean, I did send all the things to the copyright office, but we weren't able to make a book. So I took her writings and created this book. And to me, I felt like it helped me grieve by going through the process of putting together the poems, her photos into this book. And like my dream is to help people, like if you have that box of stuff in the garage that's not being used, I could help them curate those items and create a book or an art piece. You know, help them facilitate that process of making this art piece so they can not cope, but I guess help them through the grieving process, if that makes sense. So in this book, I included her writing. Like I literally transposed her writing in Illustrator and captured her words. This is like an edited version of this book, this poem. Utilizing. I just loved her handwriting. And this is one of the first books I ever made. I did this at the Corcoran in Ancho's class. And this is where, when I look at it now, this is probably where it started, the pattern making. I didn't know it then, but I definitely when I was looking at this on Monday, when I was doing my talk, I was like, this is where it began. And this is part of the reason why I do what I do. And I don't know if you know, but the name of my press is Mary Ruth's Press. So it's named after my grandmother. So it's very special to me.
That's really lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. Did somebody ask a question about monotype?
They did, yes. Is every book a monotype or finished with many additions?
The ones that you just saw are monotypes, but I do have some that are additions. So like this book is an edition of 3. Yeah, 3. No, I'm sorry, 2. I'm gonna remake it. That's why I'm saying 3. But so this is a Frida Kahlo book and a wallpaper book that I saw at an actual bookstore. They were sitting side by side. And when I was flipping through them, I noticed that there were similar colors and similar things in them. So like, for instance, like the red in her hair, this wallpaper, it's another one, like this one. I turned the letters that she sent to Diego into plates and printed them on the letterpress on some of the pages. So like this kind of informs each other. And then
those juxtapositions are good. Yeah, those are really wonderful, those relationships between the two.
But there's a favorite one in here, well, with my favorite color, which is yellow. Let me see if I can find it. I should just bookmark it.
Yeah, but now we get to peek at the whole thing a little more. Oh.
There it is. I just love it. I just had fun with this one. And also, yes, it has a colophon, Casey.
Well, you've even inspired some of the participants to look through their family collections at home.
Awesome.
I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
We are coming up to the end of our hour. I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Sarah, that was a lovely way to spend an hour on a Friday afternoon. I thank you so much. I feel relaxed.
You're welcome.
I feel inspired.
Great.
And I know I'm not the only one. So thank you so much for sharing your work with us. That is exactly what was needed. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
The only criticism is that it was too short.
I know, as you're
Thank
sharing
you
work
so
and I
much.
have to say that. Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It was awesome.
Well, we'll have to meet you here.
What'd you say?
Oh, I said we'll have to have you visit sometime.
Oh, absolutely. When all this is over, I'll be over there. Workshops. Okay.
We are looking at workshops. I'll send you an email, Sarah.
Okay.
We'll see what's possible online. And then after all of this is, like you said, over, we'll get you here in Two Rivers.
All right. Awesome.
I want to say thank you again. I'm going to just put a couple of links over into the chat to say thank you, everyone, for coming here today. If you want to make sure that you see upcoming Hamilton Hangs, I've put that link over there. Remember, you just have to register for each one, but they are free. And one of the reasons they're free is because we have amazing members. So if you can become a member of Hamilton, we really appreciate it. It helps make programming like this happen. I know a lot of you are members, so thank you so much for your support.